Hi, I'm Nita Van Evil, and I'm excited to introduce you to the incredible adventures of Van Helsing, developed and published by Neocore Games. If you like RPGs and are not too caught up in one at the moment, I know there's so many great games out there, I definitely recommend you take a look at this particular copy. Especially since the sequel is about to be released in just a few days, the 22nd of May, which will be exactly 1 year after this first one was released. But, let me explain a bit about where and what and who we actually are in this game. It's set to take place in the fictional land of Borgovia, and is quite loosely based on Bram Stoker's famous tale of Dracula. On that note, I might just add that in real life, Count Dracula's castle in Bulgaria is currently up for sale. The price has not been revealed, but it has formally been up for 135 millions. So, I guess no castle for me anytime soon. Anyway, back to the game. The setting is 19th century, slightly dark and twisted Europe, in which there's, of course, magic, steampunkish, awesome technology, and a hell of a lot of monsters to slay. There's a lot of werewolves, which is great and directly in the spirit of the Dracula Van Helsing theme. Just wouldn't be right without those huge bastards roaming the countryside. And then there is a lot of these more steampunkish new monsters that, is quite different from the original lore, but it's really cool, and you should definitely check it out. Okay, well, who are we then? We assume the role of Abraham Van Helsing's son, so it's a direct descendant, you really must say. I don't know how good a dad he actually was, but anyway, you might find out more about this throughout the game. And we're in the delightful yet ghostly company of Lady Katarina. I've read a bit on the internet about people finding companions in general annoying. I must admit that I, all in all, kind of like them. So I don't really have any problem with Lady Katarina. I think she's a great asset, especially since Lady Katarina has a huge skill set of her own that is primarily targeted towards support functions for Van Helsing. That means, of course, she can boost the amount of damage Van Helsing does and increase his attack frequency, and so on. You get the idea. And then the most incredible thing, she can give a huge boost to your magic find. Yeah. Just gonna get you some awesome weapons. So anyway, speaking of the skill tree, Van Helsing is also quite well endowed in that direction. The worst part, as always with this stuff, is to decide which skills you want. I want them all, and though the skill tree is not as impressive when you first look at it, there's a lot of little special features in it. Well, of course, there's a skill flow, so you have to unlock the skill before in order to gain this one, and so on and so forth. You all probably know this system. Then there's also a general counter for how much mastery of your skills you have, so you will continuously work on this part too, and when you reach certain milestones, for each 10 points or skill points you gain, you can say, you'll gain kind of special feature or special trait because of this mastery. And you can't really see what those traits will be, but you'll just have to play and see what happens. And then there's also another part of special things when you reach, let's say, skill level 5 for this thing, you might be able to unlock a special boost for this skill, and again at 10, and some of them only have one skill level this happens on, and others might have both 5, and so there's a lot of things to work with here, and to make the perfect build for your character and your gaming style. So anyway, the skill system is a bit complex, and there's a huge ass amount of possibilities, really. And I'm definitely not complaining here, I'm freaking loving it. However, I'll just advise that you play the game rather concentrated while you have all these skills set up in your mind, so that you kind of really get into it. Okay, and then there's the inventory. It's the good old tried system, you could say. I'm not so fond of it. I don't like this where armor takes up this much space and rings this, and weapons that, and so on. I just prefer to have a limited amount of stuff I could put in there. Also because you have to sit here and move it around to just be able to get it all to be there. And yeah, I'm not that great with it, but it's not a big problem either. Especially since you can also unlock some perks throughout the games, and one of the first one you gain access to is to be a collector, and that will give you another inventory page, which I'm using extensively. And then there's the part of comparing equipment. Now that we're in the stuff of things I'm not that fond of, I might add that I'm not completely satisfied with this part of the game handling. It does not always properly show the negative changes of removing an item with positive effects. Luck will, for example, influence your dodge and your magic find, I think gold find too, and critical hit, I think also. So it's quite important if you have luck points. Those actually account for quite a bit, and I don't always find this is represented enough. That was just an example. There is more things that do this. It's not something that ruins the game or anything. It's just something you have to be aware of. Well, anyway, right now I'm playing with all the 3 released DLCs that is for this game. There is Blue Blood, which adds the new skill tree to Katarina and improves her abilities. Then we have the Thaumaturge. Well, it's used in a lot of other games, but let's just take a look at the word because it's quite funny. It means wonder worker, so miracle maker, and yeah, basically magic. So this is Neocore's way of bringing a spellcast to this series, and works out quite good actually. It's interesting to try out, and he has some really great skills. Personally, I did not really expect this to be in this series. I'm thinking very much of it as hack and slash and, blazing guns maybe. But a spellcaster is definitely a great idea. I really like playing those classes, so I'm really glad they gave me the possibility. And, well, then of course a new class, as you probably expect. Also add new traits and auras, and of course a full new skill tree, more suitable for this kind of gaming style. Oh, and a quick word of advice. The Thaumaturge has a lot of options build-wise. I would definitely recommend to choose one element to focus on. Well, furthermore, this DLC also adds new items, suitable for this class of course, and a few new minor side quests. Then there is the last DLC, the Arcane Mechanic, which is much like the Thaumaturge in that it is a new class. So it adds side quest, equipment, skills, traits, and auras, of course. And I think this is a great class. It really accentuates the steampunkish feel of this game, which is really nice. I'm very much into steampunk, and this game is really, it has really captured that spirit quite nicely. And I might just add, I think that is a bit sad, is that in the cutscenes it's only the classic Van Helsing that is shown, so it feels a bit awkward when playing as one of the 2 other classes that is provided throughout those DLCs. Oh, and I forgot to mention, but that you also have the base class, which is a classic Van Helsing with swords and guns, and he of course also comes with his own extensive skill tree. Okay, a quick conclusion then. I found this to be a really great game. I really liked especially the lovely steampunkish settings. That was super nice. And then there's the story, which is, well, it's okay, but there's not really any surprises, and don't go expect an epic tale in any way. This is, however, partly weighed up by the witty dialogue that is in the game, particularly between Van Helsing and the dear Lady Katarina. So it was an overall really good experience, and I definitely recommend it. Oh, and according to Neocore, if you can't find the time to play this first part of their Van Helsing series, they've of course made sure that the sequel that is soon out will also be enjoyable to newcomers of the series. Just so you know. I guess the only thing left to say is thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like. Got questions, info, or just regular comments, add them down below. And I hope to see you next week for a much anticipated first look at the new game, The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 2. See ya!